Good Thursday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. We're live in Charlottesville, across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. It is an absolute beautiful day to be above the mud. I swear every day I wake up, I just thank the man upstairs, and I'm just happy to be alive. And I think if you embody that mindset of positivity, of zest for life, good things will follow. And another thing, I will throw this out there, every day that I exercise and get those endorphins going and kind of push myself, whether on a mountain bike, whether on a pickleball court or a tennis court, or whether I'm playing soccer or something where I'm like sweating for 2 hours and pushing myself, I literally enjoy life more. It's something about that exercise high that I get. And speaking of the exercise high, in about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, we're going to introduce you to someone who chases that adrenaline and that exercise high. And Kate Lucas, she's a friend of the program. She's a colleague and a supporter and ally to entrepreneurs across Central Virginia, whether it's residential or commercial. She's just a tremendous asset to the Realtor community in Central Virginia and Charlottesville and across Albemarle County. She's the founder of a new race around Thanksgiving, the Charlottesville Turkey Trot, which is going to lock and load this year. I mean, little pressure on Kate. She doesn't wait till next year to do it. She's like, damn it, I'm doing it this year. Before we get to Kate Lucas, we'll give some props to Dr. Wagner of Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine, a great partner of this program. Ting Fiber Internet is the internet that powers the I Love CVille Network. And our newest partner is Skooma Boutique Dispensary in the downtown mall next to Rapture. Certificates of analyses and everything in the store. Judah Wickhauer is our director. J-Dubs, our North Star. Let's get ready to welcome the talented, the beautiful, the capable, the dynamic Kate Lucas to the show. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I can follow you around all day if you need me to.
Thank you for that amazing introduction. You make me feel like a rock star.
You are a rock star.
I don't know about that, but anyway, thank you.
Yeah?
It's so great to be here.
It's great to have you. Terry Thompson, hello. Introduce yourself to everybody that is watching. Before we talk shop, passions, hobbies, and interests for you.
Okay. Well, I have a passion for endurance sports. I've been doing triathlons forever. And I have a passion for racing and also bringing the community together. But I'm also a realtor, do commercial and residential, and I'm passionate about, just business in general and helping people.
How long have you been a realtor, Kate?
I got my license in 2015, and really, I was running a business at the time, Charlottesville Multisports.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So that was, I was putting on triathlon. I started several triathlon races here, and the Earlysville Turkey Trot.
Okay.
And it was a successful small business, and I was running it for 8 years. I started Monticello Man Tri. The Jefferson Sprint Tri at Fry Spring. Okay. And again, the Earlysville Turkey Trot, and then I was managing a couple other races. And, and that was started just because I had already been racing for a long time, and I just had a passion for it and felt like I could do something that could make the community not make the community come together, but help the community come together. And hopefully help promote, hopefully help inspire other people to become active and set goals to stay fit and healthy like it had done for me.
Your favorite sport?
Triathlon.
Okay, I got to ask you this. First, I'm going to ask you what it's like to push yourself to a limit in a triathlon like you've done. I think anyone who's done a triathlon realizes it's pretty much an experience that it's incredibly difficult to duplicate in other settings. I want to ask you that. Before I do, swimming, biking, or running, which one's your favorite?
I get that asked
all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
And it just varies. I really like them all.
Okay. That's the safe answer.
It started out, though, that I did not like running. I love playing team sports, and I did that in high school and middle school.
What sports? I bet you were good at all of them.
I was okay. I was decent, but I played,
Soccer?
Field hockey.
Okay.
Field hockey was probably my best sport.
Okay.
And then basketball, believe it or not, I'm only 5'3". So.
Were you like a scrappy point guard?
I was.
Yeah, I bet you were. Played good defense, never ran out of energy, could run up and down the court all the time, right?
I don't know about that.
Left it all on the court the whole time?
yeah, anyway, I love taking like the 3-pointer shots because, that was where I was able to get most open.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so I'd work on that and practice. I also played some tennis and did like cross country like 1 year.
Okay.
I wish I'd done it more.
So that was your first taste of running?
Yes.
Was cross country
Yeah.
in high school?
Yeah.
And you didn't catch the running bug right away?
I really didn't.
Okay.
It was just something that was very painful at the
Yeah.
time. And so running just for distance was never my love. I remember doing a 400-yard track.
400 meters?
400 meters.
Yeah, that's a brutal race.
Hurdles.
Get out of town. That's even more difficult than 400-meter run. I mean, that's essentially a sprint while jumping over things.
This was awful.
Yeah,
I
that's
thought
not
I was going to
fun.
die.
Yeah.
So I have so much empathy for these, people that do hurdles. But so I played field hockey a little bit in college on a top team, and so I was always, running for team sports. But after college, I was, just finding myself getting out of shape and wanted something that was fascinating and fun, and got into mountain biking. And then off-road triathlon came around, and I knew I could swim, I knew I could bike, and I knew the run would be painful, and it was. So that was definitely my least favorite at the time.
So would we say it's mountain biking?
Mountain biking is probably
That's my favorite.
My favorite, yeah.
Yeah, and don't you feel fortunate where we're at? I mean, put that in perspective.
Very much so, because I used to live in Richmond.
Oh, okay.
And while we had some great trails downtown Richmond, there just weren't as many
Right.
that were that accessible. And like I can ride out my door and run out of daylight I can ride out my door here and run out of daylight before I run out of trails.
That's so true. So I'm going to ask you this. And our buddy, Curtis Shaver, who I believe, he is watching, a big-time mountain biker. I love you, Curtis. I love Peloton Station. We'll give some props to some of the people that are watching here in a matter of moments. So my favorite mountain biking trail, Kate, is Walnut Creek or Privy Creek because I feel like they're the most rewarding. I mean, you get some technical, but you get that downhill where that adrenaline you're chasing, you get a taste of. I think the most technical, difficult, arduous is O Hill. Like if I'm in Charlottesville, I go out this office with my bike, I can get to O Hill, 12 minutes from Market Street.
Oh yeah, you could ride.
You could do it for
on the Ravenna.
Yeah,
right?
Ravenna
Trail.
Exactly.
Which is fantastic.
So then you do O Hill for 50 minutes. You're back here, round trip. It's like 90 minutes, maybe 100 minutes for me, not even 2 hours. Your favorite trail, mountain biking, and why?
I don't know if I can say it.
This is the hardest question I'm going to ask you.
I don't know if I can say it on air because it's been such a controversial place to
ride. Oh, okay. You could say it. I have a feeling.
Can?
Yeah, I have a feeling I know what you're going to say.
So my favorite trails are Ragged Mountain, and they're just fantastic. And the new Hayward trails are great.
Yeah.
So what they're doing there is just phenomenal. And so I live near Barracks Road, and so one of my favorite trails is that section of Ravenna that goes from Barracks over to Fontaine.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'll ride that all the time, and then ride over to Ragged, do a loop, and come
What's it
back.
take you? 2 hours?
Oh, doing that loop? Well, I'm also adding the Hayward Trail.
Okay, so that's longer.
A little bit under 2.5 hours.
Okay. You like O Hill?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so used to it but I'm riding usually the Ravenna trails that are in O Hill. Some of them are not the Ravenna trails, but I do like it.
I love O Hill, guys. All right, so go ahead.
I was just going to say, I really didn't even realize you were mountain biking.
Oh, I love mountain biking.
So we should go mountain biking sometime. We need to catch up.
I got a 29er. I love mountain biking. I love Walnut Creek. I love Privy, although Privy's a little further from where I'm at now. O Hill, like I said, I can do a hot lap and get back and be under 90 minutes and then be back in that chair grinding for work and feel better than when I left.
Yeah.
But this is about you. I mean, talk to us about the triathlon. Talk to us about the nerves before it starts. You've done more than me. I've done one. Okay, the nerves before it starts. And then when you're done, what you're feeling. Because from what I remember, I was because this was my first one, it was I was so nervous.
Recently?
No, this was 2 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
A sprint or
I was,
Olympic?
it was, what was it? Was it, it's Virginia Beach. What's the one in Virginia Beach?
There's a couple, but I think I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, and the most difficult aspect for me with the triathlon is swimming. It was so choppy. What people don't realize that don't do it is like you're getting beat up in the water. You're getting banged up by other people that are swimming next to you. But you're the pro, you're the expert here. Put in perspective the flip book of emotions that you're feeling.
That's a good question because, I started competing in triathlons in 2000, and I can vividly remember like how scared I was and how nervous I was during the swim. And recently, after taking a year off because of the pandemic, those same feelings, almost the same feelings, came back.
They were back?
Sort of. Not, I mean...
Because you kind of knew what to expect.
Yeah, you're just out of practice. And all those, what ifs were going through my mind. But certainly for, I can understand what beginners are going through. And so just... to not answer your question right away, I was going to say that the coolest thing about our sport is the fact that everybody started somewhere. And so a lot of people are so helpful to other people getting into the sport because of that, because there's a lot of empathy for other people. So that's one thing I love about the sport. But, so the swim can definitely be nerve-wracking, or just, depending on the distance of the race, it can be just daunting. And... depending on the level of the race, it can be intimidating. Like, if I'm not as concerned about, like, the outcome, I'm not going to be quite as nervous. It's just going to be a little bit more for fun, but I still want to do well. If I'm trying to qualify for the World Championship.
See, that's the difference between me or you. I was like literally just trying to finish, and you are trying to do this for like benchmarks and goals that are beyond the triathlon you're in right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're a pro.
I'm not a pro.
I mean, you're approaching. She's very, very modest and humble right now.
I would say I'm a competitive amateur.
Okay.
And I've had opportunities when I was younger to probably, get my pro license. So you really have to qualify to get a pro license. And I was at that point, and I just never felt like I would be fast enough or something. And I regret not pushing the limits and going for it at that time. But, I've been doing it long enough that, some people consider I'm a pro, but not officially.
I can say this, one of the best ones, one of the top ones in this area, that's for certain.
Yeah, there's maybe a couple, but maybe they're not racing right now.
Right. Chet CP's giving you some props.
Okay.
Keith Smith is giving you some props. He says, "Go, Kate, go." We got a lot of agents from CAR watching you on this broadcast right now. I love how supportive CAR is, guys, of the agents that in the Charlottesville-Albemarle Association of Realtors. We're going to get to this race that you're launching in a matter of moments. I would be remiss if I did not ask a talented realtor like yourself about the market.
About the market?
Yeah.
Well, we need inventory in residential. It's just unfortunate to see, all the ripple effects of what's happened to make inventory so low. But, it'll be interesting to see. You probably know more about what, when that relief is going to happen based on, construction, and you're probably more in the loop of that. So I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
So I'll give a few takes and throw it back to you. Nationally, 5.5 million units under inventory. Mm-hmm. New construction is not keeping up with demand, certainly as millennials are driving the market and buying homes left and right. Realtor magazine has named Central Virginia the #2 place to retire for baby boomers. Mm-hmm. So in the country, so we have baby boomers flocking to this area and retiring. Waynesboro is #3.
Yeah, I see it. Yep.
UVA's hiring more people.
Yeah.
We have no inventory
We're
here.
in a great area.
We're in a great area. I mean,
Yeah.
outdoors, sports, music, beer, wine, restaurants, the mall. I mean, it's all the reasons we live here. And then we get all this national press about best place to live. And then we get folks reading this national press and coming here, and I see why we're in this, sticky situation. Can you put in perspective some of the trials and tribulations your clients have experienced in this market?
Oh, gosh.
Right?
Specifically, even, there's residential clients that it's just difficult to find something for. They put in multiple offers, get rejected, and so really there are solutions that you can help them with if they're, willing to purchase houses that might be a little bit less than what they really see themselves in. As far as commercial, I think just being more of a small city, I think with the exception of office space, I find shortages, and I'm trying to...
And that's how I first met you.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
In the Macklin building, you had a client looking for office space. That's the building we're in now. You're one of the few that dabble in both, commercial and residential.
Oh, I thought there were more that did
Well,
it.
I mean,
but,
there are more. I mean, Keith, who's watching, dabbles in both. Carolyn Betts says Kate is a beast.
I love Carolyn.
She says you're an
She's
absolute beast right
fantastic.
here.
Thanks, Carolyn.
You got a lot of folks.
She's a beast.
Is she a beast?
She's a very good athlete, too.
You got folks in Shockoe Bottom, Shockoe Slip, and around VCU and Carytown watching you now on the feed. The office space is certainly slim, especially affordable office space. The residential,
Yes, affordable office space.
I mean, because there's Class A.
But there's a lot of it.
What, Class A?
Well, office space, yeah.
There's a lot where it's like, sign your life away here.
Right.
We want a 10-year lease, and it's going to cost you $10,000 or $15,000 a month.
Right.
There's not a ton for the small business or
Right.
the aspiring entrepreneur that doesn't know if their business is going to work
Right.
and needs a short window to prove itself. And I feel for them. Talk to us about, because you have a client, and we don't have to mention his or her name unless you want to, but you have a client that's looking for space in Crozet.
I have two.
Oh, two? Okay.
Yeah, they're looking for space in Crozet, more particularly restaurant space, and it's very difficult to find anything there right now. And I understand there'll be solutions coming in another year, but everybody that I've talked to so far really just doesn't have any. And when I say talk to, other agents that I've talked to, they don't really have anything. So I'd love to see, I think that's a good thing for Crozet to have that demand and need. And I, wish that they would, have something, have more options right now. As far as, both of these clients, I don't know if we're going to be able to find something, within the next year.
So is the game play the waiting game, or is the game expand your geographical footprint and see if you can find more space?
I don't know yet. I mean,
you got to find,
yeah.
Dude, you got to pull a cat like a mat. You have to do a magic trick in this market.
It's finding a needle in a haystack.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. And it's, anyway, I just have to try all avenues and bug people and and pray.
Chet says not only are you a beast, but you're super fast.
It's all relative, though, right?
You're being way too humble right now. She is super fast. Folks at Keller Williams loving what they're seeing. Real Estate 3, as I mentioned. Logan Foster, hello and welcome to the broadcast. All right, let's talk to us. You're popular.
Thank you.
You're popular. Let's talk about this race. Let's talk about what's happening around Thanksgiving.
Charlottesville Turkey Trot.
Yep.
Or Turkey Trot 2.0.
2.0.
Right. It is going to be Thanksgiving Day, 9 a.m. Super excited for this venue, but also a little sad to be not going to the original venue in Earlysville.
Why?
Well, so during the pandemic, we had so many restrictions, and the county restrictions were that you could only have, I think it was about 25 people maybe per wave, and so many people on the property at one time. And that venue was just the logistics of it were just very difficult to suit those restrictions. And so when I was out just running on my own near my home, near Almar High School, on some roads that I just really hadn't been running on that much, but they were a little bit flatter, and I was coming back from injury, it just dawned on me, I was like, wow, this could be a good area, and I think it could work for with wave starts. So the Earlysville Turkey Trot didn't have option to do wave starts, and you really need wave starts to be able to make it to be able to let people be physically distanced from everybody. And the Almar High School venue, I just kept running it by people, talked to the police, talked to Almar High School, and the logistics just work for wave stars, basically. So decided to pursue that. Also, there's, I think, just having a fresh start after some things that transpired with the past race. It's a long story, but and I don't know if I should get into.
No,
all
we don't
that,
have to get into that. Yeah,
it's
we do the cliff
anyway,
notes.
Yeah. The exciting thing is this venue is just fantastic. It's got businesses around it that want to support it. It's got a lot of neighborhoods, and my hope is that it'll bring our neighborhood and community more together, and it'd be something fun and active to do on Thanksgiving morning. And that's what I've seen in the past with the Earlysville Turkey Trot. So when I started that in 2009, it was so much fun to see all these families coming out for it, and seeing, you know, families from like young kids that are 5 years old to their grandparents coming out and participating in it. And that's what I love about the Turkey Trot races. And that's why I'm so passionate about putting this on.
One of my favorite things about, I've done a few turkey trots, is the family coming back that doesn't necessarily live in the area.
Yes.
So then you'll have like oftentimes like multi-generations running or walking together, and a lot of them may not live in the area. They might have ties to the area or maybe no ties, but Thanksgiving just happens to be at a home in Charlottesville. And then like that extended family comes, and then next thing you know, you got like grandma, grandpa, uncles, brothers and sisters, like a lot of family running together. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Put that in perspective, like what you've seen and like some of your favorite experiences with races like around Thanksgiving.
Well, I mean, one of my favorite races to ever run, that I've ever run, is the Richmond Turkey Trot when I lived in Richmond. And my friends and I, at the end of a long triathlon season, would plan on doing that more as for fun, but really, once we got on the start line, we were racing each other. But
I can totally see that.
So the best part about it was just seeing so many friends and family out at this race. And then this was a 10K, and it was just like celebrating Thanksgiving with all your friends in a healthy manner. So I would say that's one of my favorite experiences. And when I moved to Charlottesville in 2009, this idea was thrown on me, like maybe you should start your own turkey trot. And I was like, kind of laughed at first, and then thought about it some more, and I was like, why not?
How hard is it to start a race?
The thing is I couldn't get into the Boar's Head Turkey Trot. It was sold out. So I saw a need that, okay, well, they're sold out several weeks in advance, and, I'd love to help this, Earlysville people come together and run. And so that's what started it all.
We'll give props to some viewers and listeners here. And guys, if you have questions or comments for Kate, or questions or comments for our next guest, Hank, put them in the feed. We're live on every social media platform possible. You're going to get a kick out of this. We got Richmond, specifically Carytown, Chaco Bottom, Chaco Slip, Jackson Ward, watching the program now. I see on the heat map, Short Pump, of course, Charlottesville, Earlysville, and Crozet. We have folks around D.C., Maryland, Philadelphia, North Carolina, and our friends in Tallahassee, Florida. A big contingent of UVA alumni in Tallahassee, Florida watching the show. Craig Scott giving you props.
Thanks,
Patrick And Cowick.
And Koviak. Yeah, we used to work together.
Giving you props.
The Martin Agency.
Seth, okay, there's Richmond right there. Seth Batten giving you some props.
Thanks, Seth.
Tanvir Buhapal. Giving you some props.
Canada.
So Canada's on the feed here. Quentin Beckham, hello. Welcome to the program. We love you, QB. This question, are you still swimming in the Rivanna River?
At this moment, when the river level is high enough, I will go.
Okay.
Yes. It's fantastic.
Okay, put that in perspective, because a lot of people don't know about swimming in the Rivanna.
Okay, so this was born when the pandemic started, because the pools were shut down, and after 2 weeks of no swimming in the pool, I swim with the CVille Y Masters at the Brooks YMCA, and my swimming was really strong at the time, and like right before the pandemic hit, and I just really missed it. And I went out mountain biking on the Rivanna trails, specifically eyeing the Rivanna to see if there's any place that I might be able to swim in. And lo and behold, I saw this amazing rapid, and it happened to be a Darden Towel. And I didn't know anything about the Darden Towel boat ramp. I didn't even realize it was there.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize so many people put in there for inner tubing. I'd never done any of that. And I just saw that rapid, and I was like, oh my gosh. I got so excited, I got goosebumps, and decided I was going to go out there the next day because the conditions were right. And I went out there, and literally the first time I went out there, I swam into this 2-foot rapid and it was more like an endless pool, just swimming 30 minutes in place into a rapid. And then one thing led to another, where I realized there was a body of water that was about 100 yards long before the next rapid, and I decided to just see if I could swim back and forth in that area, and I could. And then I got another teammate to come out and join me, the wonderful Emily McDonald, who's a fantastic swimmer. She was brave enough to come out, and she's like, first of all, it was in March, and the water's cold, and I was wearing a wetsuit. The water temperatures were close to 60, and she's like, oh my gosh, I need to get a wetsuit. And so she bought a wetsuit, had to wait for her to get that. She came out and swam with me, and because of her being there, it gave us each other the courage to swim past that lower rapid. So we literally swam maybe a quarter mile downstream, and we felt like we were on the Amazon River.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. And so
a lot of people don't know this.
So we were scared. We actually turned around about 400 yards down and then decided to swim back up. And
why? Because the water conditions, it was moving so quickly?
We just weren't, I wasn't sure about rapids or rocks and in the river at that time. I just didn't know anything about this river. And I grew up swimming in rivers and oceans and lakes, so I'm comfortable with it, but I knew, and I grew up swimming in the James River. And so I just knew enough about how to be careful, and I'd rather be careful than sorry. So both Emily and I, we were astounded. We were just two giddy girls, just oh my gosh, I can't believe we just swam 400 yards in a river.
Right.
So we swam back, and then the next day she came out there, we got enough courage to swim even further, and it ended up being a whole half-mile swim down from Darden Towel to Freebridge. And so we ended up swimming 800 yards down, and then, it's about 900 yards really, and then we swam all the way back up. And at this point, and I think maybe even before, when I originally started swimming, we were swimming with fins to swim back up and into the rapids. And so we just, I don't know, when the river level's up, it's harder to swim back upstream, but with fins, you can do it a lot easier.
Sure.
And a lot safer too.
Sure.
So one thing led to another. We invited another good friend out, Jay Kaufman, who's a fantastic open water swimmer and part of our CVille Master swimming group. And he joined us, and then it just grew from there. And now I've got a Facebook page that is a private Facebook page that's a gathering for just serious open water swimmers. and our master's group. So anyway, and there's also a big goal of mine to want to swim like 10 miles downriver from Dardentow.
So where would that take you?
That would take us down to Crofton,
Okay.
Palmyra.
Good night. So you would need, if you did that, you would have a car at Dardentow. First, you'd drop a car off at Palmyra. Mm-hmm. You would swim from Dardentow on Pantops in Albemarle County to Palmyra, Fluvanna.
Yeah.
That would be so legit.
Right, but the conditions would have to be just
You'd have to have
right
a lot of rain.
on a weekend.
Yeah.
And trust me, I've already talked to like Parks and Rec about this and see
And
if
they're
they're
all
on
about
board.
it?
They want us to do it.
They do?
Yeah, they're all about it because they want to promote the Rivanna as a blue way, which is not just a green way.
Sure. So get this. Rod Kugler?
Yes.
He says, you also have the Library of Congress watching you right now, Kate Lucas. You're doing a great job. Grayson Lancaster watching the program. I swim in the Rivanna all the time. This interview is absolutely fantastic, although I'm worried that you guys are giving away one of the best kept secrets in Albemarle County in Central Virginia. I love that.
Get in touch with me later, and you
DM
can
her.
join our you can join our private Facebook group.
Shoot her a DM. Okay, so let's do this. We're 36 minutes in. You're crushing it.
Shoot.
It flies by, right?
Yes.
Doesn't it fly by? Guys, for those that are very excited for a world-renowned architect, talking about you, we have this gentleman. He's going to join us in about 4 minutes on the program here on the I Love CVille Show with 6 states watching the program here and Canada as well. Mr. Hank Browne is going to join us in about 6 minutes here. I want to dot the I's and cross the T's and further promote the Charlottesville Turkey Trot that you have coming on. But before we do, what is it about this community in Charlottesville and Central Virginia and Albemarle County that you love?
Gosh, there's a lot of things. I mean, I would say the integrity in the community, the people. There's a lot of people that are affiliated with UVA. There's a lot of high standards, a lot of humbleness in the community, I would say, a lot of philanthropy, the beauty, and the fact that it's not so crowded that you can get to all these cool places. I love the fact that I can swim, run, almost out my door. So there's just, a long list of the wineries. Just a ton of stuff. Sorry, I'm not.
No, that's great. That's all the reasons I love it too.
Yeah.
Would you ever move back to Richmond, or is this home forever?
I've thought about that so many times, and I don't think I can move back to Richmond. Sorry, Richmond people.
They're watching. I know, but I talk about this all the time with people.
I love the music scene here too. By the way,
yeah. If there were 2 places that I would move to, and I'm not moving. I mean, my company's called I Love CVille, so it's not going to be easy to scale I Love CVille to a different town. Okay, so if there were 2 places that I would move to, it would be Richmond or Asheville, North Carolina. I'm absolutely in love with Asheville, although Asheville's going through a lot of the same trials that Charlottesville's going through, and that it's just getting extremely expensive to live in Asheville, North Carolina. I mean, Asheville 15 years ago is very different than the Asheville today.
Right.
Richmond, I love the charm and the intimacy. It's this big city, but you can walk places and you know people, and depending on the day, the traffic really isn't an issue, and you have this neighborhood feel. I love, for instance, Jackson Ward is watching right now. I love Jackson Ward. I love Carytown, and I love.
From a real estate perspective, Richmond is.
You have so much more inventory.
Amazing,
it's so much more affordable. It's so much more open to you don't have to be super wealthy to buy a home in Richmond.
Right.
Or Charlottesville and Albemarle County, if you're not. I mean, it's getting to the point now, Kate. It is difficult to find a home in Charlottesville and Albemarle County. Under 550? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's getting. It is. In the city, In the city, right,
yeah.
right. I mean, new construction in this town is starting with an 8 in front of it, which is crazy to think. I feel I'm empathetic, it's a word you used earlier today, for the first-time home buyer. I mean, 2021 in this area, Charlottesville and Albemarle County, for the first-time home buyer is tough.
Yeah.
So 2 questions left. The last one's going to be spotlight the race again. I'd be remiss not to ask you about what you love about working with buyers and sellers as a realtor.
So you want to talk about the race first?
No, let's go.
Okay.
Let's do that last.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love getting to know the buyers or sellers that just are good people. I love hearing their stories. I love being able to help them. There's no better feeling when you just really click with somebody too, and you can just help them guide them to a significant investment for their life. I mean, these purchases are life-changing. So that is what's humbling to me, but also the favorite part of my job.
Well said. Well said. The show is yours. Let's talk about this race. Last question. How we can join, how we can enter, expectations, your plan long-term for it?
Long-term, okay, well, so yeah, like how you can join, go to charlottesvilleturkeytrot.com. Again, it's the inaugural Charlottesville Turkey Trot. It features a very rare, relatively flattish.
For this area.
I can say it's not flat because nothing really in this area is flat, but it's only got a profile of like 73 feet of elevation gain, which is almost unheard of for a 3-mile course here. The community around it is great. We've got amazing just initial sponsors right now. We've got Move Better Physical Therapy. They're going to be our packet pickup location. They're right across the street from Albemarle High School. Rodney Madigan is a big mountain biker here and runs a great physical therapy program business across the street, and he's willing to help out and be the site for packet pickup, so I'm super excited about that. Got Tammy Wilt with Atlantic Bay Mortgage. She's an area runner, and she just was kind enough to come on board and support the race. And then we've actually got Bashir's Tavern.
He was just in here. We love you, Bashir.
Yeah. He's going to be a sponsor and providing an option to win a holiday ham.
That's big time. Have you had his holiday hams?
I have not had his holiday hams.
They're delightful. They're amazing.
He also does some turkeys too, though.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, no, I would love to. You can talk more about that. But Bashir and I just connected, and because he's, his theme is holiday hams, I was like, why don't, we see if we can do something together and help each other.
He's given me the green light to get this out there. Mm-hmm. He's looking to open a restaurant again.
I know that.
Yeah, I know you know that. Yeah, I know. But he's giving me the green light to say this.
Yeah, okay.
And also the green light to say
because
she's helping him find the spot.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, if we can find one, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It would be amazing. I mean,
if anybody's got space available.
Yeah, we need one for Bashir. Reach out to Kate. Reach out to Kate. You've been an absolute delight. 45 minutes in. Any closing thoughts before we get to the distinguished Hank Browne on set?
Gosh, no, this has it's been so fun. Thanks for having me.
Our
really
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much. J-Dubs, if you can go to the one shot on me, and Kate, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Hank, we'll get you here on set in this chair over here when you're ready. Okay. Judah will give you some instruction, guys. So Kate Lucas is absolutely fantastic. The website is charlottesvilleturkeytrot.com. Check it out online at charlottesvilleturkeytrot.com. It's going to be a fantastic race. As I mentioned before, one of my favorite aspects of turkey trots is seeing generations of family running and walking in races like this. Our next guest is someone that I'm very excited to welcome to the program. Hank J. Browne, a world-renowned architect, is going to join us in T-minus 45 seconds. Judah, you give them some instruction here about where to go. And you can offer perspective and questions and comments to Hank in the feed on any social media platform you're watching upon. And he's designed and helped visionary a lot of epic buildings in this community, which we're very, very, very excited about. For those that are asking, the show is archived on ilovecville.com. It airs on every social media platform known to mankind. And we're about to have a great time with a guy. Great job, Kate. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Browne, you are live with 7 states watching you in the Free Union, Canada, and the United Kingdom. right now watching you. First, good afternoon, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, and yourself?
Doing very well.
Good.
A common friend, Bill, made this interview happen. Why don't we put in perspective your passions, your hobbies, and your interests for the thousands watching the show?
Well, my passion, of course, is preservation of ancient buildings, architectural fabric, and my practice grew from a normal architectural practice into one of primarily preservation. So that in 1984, the American Institute of Architects tapped me to go to Rome to attend the International Center for Restoration of Monuments and Sites, which I loved, of course. Who wouldn't love being 7 months in Rome? But that goes from a long way down the character strip that we have as architects. Architects are generally known as someone who is pragmatic to a very small extent and will be given a budget and exceed the budget.
That's so true. That is so true. Talk to us about your resume. I don't want you to be humble. You are distinguished, you are esteemed, you're respected, not only in this community, across the country, across the globe. Our friend Roger Voisinay is watching the program. Roger says, I am checking all of Hank's claims. Please let him know that I'm watching right now. So give us a snapshot of some of your favorite projects that you've done, not just in Charlottesville, but projects in general.
Well, one of my most favorite projects is the outdoor Privy at the Pearl Buck Institute in Hillsborough, West Virginia. I was asked to restore the project and bring it back to the time when Miss Buck was available as a child to run around. And of course they had a Mary Ann behind, which was a terminology for an outhouse. And we had to find everything we could with old photographs, digging, and so forth. So we located the Privy, and we restored the Privy. Now that goes in contrast to the work I've done in the executive mansion. That's the Richmond, the governor's mansion. We changed the color there from gray to custard yellow, doing the necessary deep chipping, going back from the very first chip of paint to where it is today.
Talk to us about that project, and we'll welcome NBC 29 to the feed and the Richmond Times-Dispatch watching the program as we speak. Talk to us about the project in the Governor's Mansion in Richmond.
The Governor's Mansion had been stripped of all of its architectural balustrades, eyebrows over the windows, panels under the windows, color, and so I was asked to come by. Jerry Beliles at that time was the governor, to see if he couldn't bring this building to completion, not only on the inside, which I did not do the interior restoration. I was doing only the restoration on the outside. So we did work very diligently, and nothing seemed to come about the color. Color always bothered me. It was a pale gray. Understand gray being a Confederate color. But I was wondering if that was, of course, the executive mansion preceded the war between the states. So we started doing some exfoliation, where you go in and you keep taking apart little circles, starting out at the size of about half a dollar piece, and go bigger and bigger to the top of a Campbell's soup can. And you gently rub away each of the sites, each of the areas, and you get the color down to the very first color the building was painted, which came out to be this wonderful yellow. I have a picture of which I brought, which you can share later on.
I would love to. In fact, if that picture could somehow get to our director, Judah, on screen, I'll let you take it from there. I also can hold it up in front of us, Judah, if you want to help Mr. Browne there with the photo he has. Folks that are watching this program, if you have a question for Mr. Browne, put them in the feed and we will happily relay them on air. I'm about to ask him about the projects that he's done locally here in Charlottesville. I'm going to ask him about the building that we're in right now, the Macla building, which I own a good chunk of. Proud to own a good chunk of this building here. I believe he did the ice park, right?
Yes, the one which is no longer with us.
Yeah, now the Code building, Joffrey Woodruff's epicenter for his portfolio. J-Dubs, we can find it another time if that doesn't work, you know. Oh, yeah, she said she could find it right there. There we go. We're doing it on the fly. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Charlottesville.
I love it.
What's this community mean to you?
Well, and I was introduced to Charlottesville because my family is from this area. My family had aunts and uncles and so forth down in Scottsville. And I used to wake up in the morning on the sleeping porch in Scottsville in the summertime to the smell of fresh baked bread. Every morning, fresh baked bread. That was the thing that I can remember.
That's a great memory.
Well, I mean, I can hardly remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
Same, me too.
So anyhow, we had that. In Charlottesville, of course, I went to the University of Virginia, graduated from the architectural school here in 1955, which is reasons I can say I've been here 50 years, planted my feet here. Joined the architectural practice of Milton L. Grigg, and when he retired, I took over as president and was president right up to the time. As a matter of fact, this building here is the result of what one does when it does reductive architecture.
Look, I got to ask you about this. And you don't have to hold back, okay? One of the things I want is honesty and frank opinion. I own a large chunk of this building we're in right now.
Congratulations.
The Macklin building.
Congratulations.
I have seen this building in many different forms and iterations, from what I will call depleted and needing some TLC.
Well, yes, it's a building that's 25 years old, begins to age very quickly.
It aged quickly, especially downtown. You got thousands of cars driving by all the time. Right. You got folks that are doing things to the building that they necessarily should not be doing to the building, and we'll leave it at that. We've done a facelift of the Macklin building that I'm very proud of, but I'm curious of your take on that facelift. I would love to hear the history of the Macklin building that you can offer from the start, if you could.
Oh, well, from the start goes back to a Chrysler Plymouth automobile with a huge elevator that elevated things to the roof, which is new. We knew then we had a good building because it was tough and it weathered. So we added the 2 floors above. This is a marvelous structured building. It has lots of good life left to it. You're very fortunate. Can I buy a piece of it?
No, it's not for sale. It's not for sale. I'm a holder of real estate, not a seller of real estate, but thank you. I appreciate your chutzpah there.
Well, it's true. Both my wife and I lived here for two different units.
You lived in the Macklin?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
No, a lot of people don't. I was downtown. I planted those 2 trees outside.
The 2 big trees in the courtyard you planted?
I planted.
That is amazing.
Yep.
And now they're 2 of the largest trees in downtown Charlottesville.
That's right. The problem now is fighting people from taking them down.
Well, and that's something we struggled with. Because we're getting a little push, a little elbow, even from the city, because the trees are so large, overhanging Market Street, and if you can see that they're kind of pushing up the sidewalk a little bit, if you may, the roots are. Keep telling us. The show is yours about the Macklin building. Anywhere you want to go.
Well, you know, the automobiles used to be lifted up to the 2nd floor.
That is amazing.
And yes, they had a big, huge elevator in the back of the building. And when you stop and think about reusing structure, people think in terms of rooftops, as you can see developed around here. They don't think about the problems that come along with making a new roof out of an old roof. For instance, all the metal in this building is copper. All the trim around all of the dormers is copper. So you do nothing to that. You just let it weather. And it will weather, continue to weather. The trees will become a problem if they're not already, but then you have to face the fact that you're going to have to take them down and put some new ones in. Not right now. The city has to learn that the trees have their own protectorate. There are people who love these trees down in the mall. Gosh, help it, when they go to try to take some of
Oh my
those down.
gosh, I experienced that. I mean, we had folks that like essentially were willing to tether themselves to the tree to keep the tree, I'm serious, to keep the tree from coming down. I mean, you know more about this than I do here. What is it like, and straightforward answer if you could, what is it like designing and building and being the visionary behind new construction, in particular commercial, in the city of Charlottesville? I would say it is not an easy task.
No, it isn't. The architects that we have employed, too, throughout the city have been very diligent in their response to requests for proposals, and we generally have a very good architectural community here that have done some really good work, and all over. For instance, my practice takes me to Washington, D.C. I was the architect for the preservation of the restoration of the building that we had, that we call the Treasury Building. And that was a lot of interesting things in there because the skylights had been removed by the FBI and the GSA when Roosevelt was president because they were afraid the Japanese would drop a bomb down the skylights. So what was one of the things we had to do? Replace the skylights. Well, we finally, our archivist, which I had employed at the time, located the shop drawings for the original cast iron skylights. And that was just a find because we could manipulate that to be complete, poured in place in molds to create the original profile of the dormers, the skylights in the Treasury Building, plus a lot of other things. And the other two projects, which I'm very proud of, is I was a consultant for the preservation of the Lincoln and the Jefferson Memorial.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
So this question is coming from Arlington.
Okay.
Jerry, I'm an alumni of UVA, and when we come to visit to Charlottesville, we enjoyed going to the ice park. I hear from one of your other viewers that he was the architect behind the ice park. It's sad for us as a family, I'm a mom of two, to see the ice park no longer on the downtown mall. It was one of the draws for us. Please ask your guests the history of the ice park from start to finish and offer as much insight as possible. Kelly Friedman, who's watching in Arlington.
Wow. Well, ask him if he's got about 2 days.
It's a mom of two, Kelly.
Lee Danielson was an entrepreneur that came into Charlottesville and did a lot of interesting things to make Charlottesville even much of a destination, as well as a place to live. He convinced the city that they could use an ice park. He knew me from some other projects that we had talked about, and so he gave me complete, uninhibited attention when I was with him. He never tried to second guess me, and I was very proud of the building. I have a picture of the building, but you know, some things just don't work sometimes. If you have a highway that's coming through your subdivision, you're more concerned about the subdivision than you are the highway. So the same thing happened here. I think the architects have done a fine job of fitting in an extremely large building into downtown Charlottesville.
You're talking the Code Building.
Yes,
Wolf Ackerman.
yes. I thought they did a great job with that. Wait to see how some of the landscaping comes out. So we were asked by the city to design this ice park, and we, along with people like Roger Voisinet, were able to bring together a group of people that allowed us to have not only ice hockey in Charlottesville.
I know, that's so crazy, right?
Yes, but we had figure skating.
Right?
And this was an ice that was manufactured by electricity.
Right.
And you know what happens to that when the power goes?
Right.
The electricity charges go right up So its time probably had come. What saddened me was that I had not been contacted by the other architects to at least discuss the potential of reusing parts of it. But my understanding since then has been that they did try very hard to incorporate the old building into this new concept, and that the type of building that is the commercial building we have now is better suited for the growth of Charlottesville.
I agree with that. I agree with that. And basically and I don't want to assume, that's why I'm going to ask the question here. The Code building, Joffrey Woodruff, the hedge fund titan, his QIM hedge fund is across the street from us right now on Market Street. You're basically saying that the density of employees and people in the Code building are going to positively impact the economy in Charlottesville from a customer patronization standpoint of the downtown mall, more so than what the ice park was doing in the later stages of the ice park.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct.
I agree with that.
Well, then you and I can discuss this with a nice Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola in hand.
There we go.
Should I not say those two titles together?
No, you can say that. You can say that.
When we open the building, I think that would be a perfect time for us to look at the building with a different light, because there'll be lots of people around it other than the yellow, red, and white hats that are predominant right now. I'm very interested to hopefully there'll be a nice coffee shop there, because that's one of the things that I think would tend to make the building integrated more in it's a new concept, and it has hopefully enough differentiation between the people that use the building so that it becomes a real hotspot. And I think, yes, your comment about more people being better for the building and for that part of the mall is correct.
Mr. Hank Browne, our guest, guys. We have 6 states watching and 3 different countries on the feed as we speak. Comments coming in from Mr. Browne. This is from Kevin Higgins. This is an excellent comment. Then we're going to get to Brian's comment about Jefferson's influence on architecture in Charlottesville and whether or not he sees Jefferson's influence slowly eroding away with building design in Charlottesville. So let's put that one to a side now. Let's get to this one first from Kevin Higgins. And this is for you, Mr. Browne. He says, Mr. Browne, can building design lead to improved employee morale and company outcomes? If so, how?
Oh, this is a thing that's long-standing among architects. If you go to Italy, you'll see buildings that are total used from the very bottom to the very top with glass walls and glass ceilings, and you'll be able to come across the United States and see places where we have wonderful shopping centers. Now, I know they're not in vogue right now, but at one time they were a force of their own. Shopping centers were something that was new for Charlottesville. It was new for the States. And yet it was copying things which had been 200-300 years old. In Rome, you could walk underneath the grand skylight connections. I think what architects can do is create a space for someone to live out their life. And actually, my definition of a residence is a stage upon which we finish our life. So, yes, they can obviously have great influence on the well-being of people. The sunlight, the shade, the shadow, the temperature changes, the idea that you have indoor gardens. All of these things are very important for the maintenance of mental health of people who stare into the computer for 6 or 8 hours a day.
Or more.
Or more, I know, or more.
I mean, 10 hours sometimes for me. I mean, it's.
Well, you're a younger man.
It's fatigue. I mean, after 10 hours of grinding, it's exhausting. So to have the architecture around you, invigorate or inspire.
And stimulate you.
And stimulate or compels.
I mean, there's nothing like a nice glass of wine with some friends after a heavy day.
Amen.
And you want to have as many different places as you can want so that you can taste them all and check with them all and have a turn down at the end of the day where everybody can shake what the tree is and know that it comes up with good fruit.
You're going to love this comment. Brian, we're going to get to your comment here on Jefferson in one moment. This comment is coming from Lauren. I'm a barista on the downtown mall, and this gentleman and some of his friends patronize our coffee shop and others. They are so kind and easygoing, and I enjoy seeing the group of men always on this downtown mall.
Well, that's very kind of her to say that. We have tried.
Bill's
Yeah,
loving
Bill-
that over there.
Bill
With
Gray
his
is
hand in
one
the
of the
air.
ones.
What's the nickname? It's the Romeos, right?
Romeos, yes. Retired old men eating out.
Yeah, the retired old men eating out, the Romeos. Bill described you guys as mall rats.
Yes, that is a good expression. Can you consider that I was the architect for the restoration of the Monticello Hotel in the condominium, and so that makes me an early mall rat.
Talk to us about the Monticello Hotel. At one time, and correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't at one time the rule was that the Monticello Hotel was the tallest building in city limits, and no building could be taller than the Monticello Hotel?
Well, I suppose that goes along with the fact that no building can be taller than the Washington Monument in Washington. I don't know that. I do know that the Charlottesville Hotel had the most powerful searchlight at that time in the United States, and it was turned on and illuminated Monticello from the roof of the Monticello Hotel. And they had to do away with it because it was making the airplanes that were bringing mail to the southern part of the country, it was making them blind, so that they had to stop that particular problem. But it was a unique building. It is a unique building. It's very, very concrete, masonry. And I think it will be going on for many years, just as this building will be coming, because this is a masonry building also.
That's right. How about Brian's question? It seems, and I'm going to paraphrase it, it's a little longer. Brian, we appreciate this comment that's come in. And he's basically saying that it seems Jefferson's influence in Charlottesville is slowly diminishing. Can your guest speak to that? First, the influence Jefferson has had on architects like Mr. Browne, and whether his influence is diminishing in Charlottesville from Mr. Browne's standpoint.
I don't think it's diminishing. I think it's being explored. And I think that it's open to more comprehensive and honest opinion about the gentleman. We all know that we have had a problem here in Charlottesville, as we have in many places, to be honest and to make sure that we have a really good confine to the discussion and not get out in center field where people are hypothecating of all sorts of things. We need to have this particular incident of our country brought forward, explored, and then taken into good consideration at every aspect of it, because Jefferson was a complicated man, probably no different than Benjamin Franklin, probably no more interested in architecture and plant life than James Madison. But these people had a place in life at a time in life when things were different. They're different today. Does the architectural influence of Jefferson wane, or does it cause people to have concerns about what his work ethic was? And I would say, yes, they've been explored so well already. And does Jefferson influence the architecture of this area? Yes, very definitely. You can start from the University of Virginia, and you go all the way back to works and things that he penned out on pieces of napkin. Again, and a good architectural technique, of course, is to have a client and have a napkin that you can draw on. And he did that for Frascati. He did that for Barbersville. And these are two very different clients. One has now been used into a multi-first type winery, which is just great. And Frascati is a beautifully restored home with all of the outbuildings intact. And so it's maintained its residential nature. How does Thomas Jefferson get the accolades that he does on the one hand and the vilification on the other hand is something we should continue to discuss.
Let's discuss that. What are your thoughts on that topic? Because of late, I went to the University of Virginia as well, and your comments of Jefferson was a complicated man, probably no different than Ben Franklin, resonate with me. And the history of Thomas Jefferson is a history that it's difficult for us to potentially understand and appreciate in 2021. And there's often many in 2021, today's time, that are trying to say, oh, I may not have ever done this, but the reality is we would never truly know because we didn't live during Jefferson and Franklin's times. So let's discuss what you just brought up, and I'm curious of your perspective.
Well, you know, he was trying to bring a new nation into the century in which it happened to find itself. He was making sure that he was using his time wisely. We know that he kept many journals of everything from the pear tree to the potty shed. We understand that he had slaves. We are now giving more and more credence to this particular part of our economy. Slaves were money. Slaves were with what you found yourself trying to justify, I'm sure. But they were the animal. They were the industrial tractor. Slaves were industrial tractors of their day, and they did everything from bake to birth. I think that it's very difficult for us in this particular century, what we know, to be completely white or black on this. I think that we have a lot of feelings that are run very high, and I wouldn't probably be criticized for saying that it's probably going to take another quarter of a century for us to tend to erase, to uncover, and to give proper exposure to those people who did create most of the buildings that we see. Slaves were the engine. They began in the morning and they finished at night, and they never were given a chance to be worn out. They were disposed of if they were no longer available for working because they were the machines. It's hopeful that we do not allow ourselves to be deluded that these men are gods. They are not gods. They were not gods. They were men of their time. You could say Julius Caesar was a man of his time. You can say that Bill Clinton was a man of his time and come forward to where we are today. And please give each of us an opportunity to have elbow room.
Well said, Mr. Browne. That was poignant. Here's an interesting comment that's come in from Stephen, who's watching in Richmond. Does Mr. Browne think that Jefferson will eventually be eradicated from his university?
No. He's done too much to do that. Why would you want to? Do we not have enough elbow room, so to speak? Can we not say, I did not live in those times. I do not know what it was like. I can only surmise. But Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, who hasn't gotten as much publicity as either Madison or Jefferson, Monroe was a president candidate who had nobody run against him because he was so popular from his first session as president. We ought to know more about this man than we know. Let's give us a little grace here. We've jumped all over this thing because we've opened up the can of worms. And that means that we need to be a little bit more cognizant that the other side has its own priorities. And these priorities, we don't know what they're going to turn out to be, but let's hope that they were as good as those days when Jefferson, Madison, and Monroe walked the earth.
Well said. This is from Adam on Twitter. Twitter is the social media platform here, Mr. Browne.
Oh, I thought it was a bird.
Mr. Browne, I knew you had a joke once I actually made that statement. This is from Adam on Twitter. He says, please ask your guest what his favorite building design-wise, architecture-wise, is in Charlottesville and Albemarle County.
Building. I would have to say the Rotunda, because it symbolizes the completeness of the grounds. It was a point where everybody thought about the building. It was the original library at the university. So it's gone through enough iterations. It's now an office building, museum. So yes, I think that's probably one of the biggest buildings that I know of that would have lasting effect on the architecture of this country.
Kevin's got a follow-up question for you. And this is a follow-up question, frankly. Kevin, thank you for asking this. I should have asked this myself. I appreciate you, Kevin Higgins. Mr. Browne, what are your thoughts on the vacant hotel building started by Halsey Minor? Lee Danielson was also a part of that, on the downtown mall. He wants to know your thoughts on, what is it now, the Dewberry? I mean, it's so many different iterations. Now the shell of the building is owned by a former quarterback of the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. He lives in Atlanta, the principal of Dewberry Capital. Bloomberg magazine dubbed this gentleman the Emperor of Empty Lots. We've since pivoted that moniker to the extorting Emperor of Empty Lots, because he takes a property to essentially a stage of blightness, and then he goes to the municipality and he says, give me as many tax credits as possible, or whatever you could give me the entire cupboard, and then I'll get to work creating a vision of this skeleton of a project. So here are the questions for you, sir. Your thoughts on the Dewberry, the structure in the downtown mall that's been a skeleton for so long. And then the follow-up question is, can it be salvaged, or is it something that's going to have to be completely taken down and rebuilt again? You probably get that a lot, don't you?
Which question do you want first?
Anywhere you want to go, sir. Anywhere you want to go.
Tax credits are what drive many projects. And tax credits are what I assume drove this project to start with. Not only tax credits, but then credits of parking, credits of setbacks, credits of height. All of these things come to play. Dewberry I don't know the gentleman. I went down to Charleston, having done a lot of work in Charleston, South Carolina, specifically to see the work that I've done and how it's weathered, and others to see the Dewberry building down there.
The hotel?
The hotel. I have to say, the hotel's done very nicely.
It looks good?
It looks good. It's furnished beautifully, has a certain sophistication, and they have some really good bourbon. Now, maybe I can't say that.
No, you can say that. You could say that. Did you say bourbon?
Bourbon.
We got plenty of bourbon back there behind you, Mr. Browne. Do you want Judah to pour you one? Is it too early for a bourbon? Okay, we can do that if you want. We got a nice one from Maine for you if you'd like.
So I think that answers two of the questions. It was generated by a tax act. It was done in a manner that caught him and others with a sense that that Charlottesville could protect itself by putting a new hotel down on the mall, when in effect he paid too much for the money, too much for the building, in my opinion. The building, if you'll stop and think about this, the building has a roof on it. It has galvanized metal studs, which galvanized metal doesn't rust as quickly. It has a concrete base, and it has a very good, interesting design, utilizing the old bank building in front. So can he be made to do this, whether he wants to or not? No. We have a constitution that says it protects you against seizure of property unless it's egregiously dangerous to people who are around it.
He's talking eminent domain.
Yeah. And so I don't think it's dangerous yet at this point. I think what we need to figure out is how to entice him to come back and finish it, or to sell the building. Now, the longer he holds it, the better it is from his standpoint, because inflation increases the value of it. It might bring it back to where he should have paid and what he did pay. But then again, I don't know those particulars either. I think that one thing that might happen that might be interesting is for an informal roundtable with him included, of all of the people who have big money investments in this area, to sit down and say, okay, how can we do this? If there was more cooperation, we may be able to get something done. But I think that Charlottesville is owed an explanation of where it is and where it's going.
I agree. And is this presumptuous for me to say we're owed a finished product?
Right.
Is that presumptuous?
No, we are owed a finished product, and we're
especially on the downtown mall, the heartbeat of the city.
Right. No, I couldn't agree with you more. But I think a bunch of guys sitting down at the table,
guys and gals, yeah,
sitting at a table with a cup of coffee from Starbucks, saying, okay, what can we do to help you? You know, we're all owners, significant owners, the code building being one, the various condominium being others. There's a couple of wonderful hotels up near the university that have been recently constructed. So I think what we need to do is open the door. We certainly have a new door to open up in Charlottesville, and this might be one of the key things that our new mayor, whoever he or she may be, can lead us to.
Do you think a hotel is the best use of the Dewberry skeleton?
I don't know. Certainly study upon study upon study has been made to determine whether it should even be there. But it's incredible to think that he would be forced to tear it down unless he was compensated for it. And who's going to compensate? The city? I don't think so. So I think that opening up avenues of communication is the best way to solve this problem.
Why don't we close on this? You're fantastic. I would love to do this again here. What does this community mean to you?
Charlottesville as a community is unique because of the university. But it's no different than any small town if you took that particular factory, the University of Virginia, out and took its economic base somewhere else. Charlottesville would probably be more like Lexington, Virginia, more like Asheville. And I think that it's important for us to understand that we see Charlottesville, each one of us, in a different light. Everyone has a different light and different look at it. And my concept of Charlottesville is that It is a bucolic setting surrounded by everything athletic.
Say that again?
It is a bucolic setting surrounded by everything athletic.
That's beautiful. Give me, unpack that for us. A bucolic setting surrounded by everything athletic. I love that.
Well, it's true.
It is true.
Think of what the university is doing out on 29250.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate to have the University of Virginia. The University of Virginia gives Charlottesville its temper, okay? And it gives it its vision. And think of the men that have graduated from the University of Virginia, and you think of all that they mean both to this level and to the level above us, which is essentially high-rise. We're a mid-rise. We're a town growing to be a city.
You're fascinating. Do you like the evolution of what you see? How you came here for undergrad or for A school?
No, I came for A school.
Okay, so how many years in Charlottesville?
Well,
or Scottsville?
1950, I came to the University of Virginia.
So you've been here 71 years.
Yeah.
71 years for viewers and listeners watching here. Is the evolution of what you've seen here, how do you characterize it, the pros and the cons?
Somewhat pleasing that we've been able to at least save some of the historic structure. I would say that we need to have a really strong business ethic in City Hall.
Amen. Love this man, Bill. I love this man. Amen. And we don't have, okay, and I'll say it. You don't have to say it. Maybe you want to say it. I'll say it. I would say it all the time on this talk show. And City Hall watches the show. The counselors watch the show. Counselor Snook is right down the hallway here. He comes on the show all the time. I have tremendous respect for Counselor Snook on this program. Counselor Snook, if you're watching, you know I do. Not all the counselors embody the mindset of championing, supporting small and medium-sized businesses, which are the backbone and the heart of Charlottesville. When we have the University of Virginia here, I went to UVA. I have a business that's 13, 14 years old here. When we have a university birthing educated and driven men and women, we are fortunate to have them matriculate through UVA and then stay in Charlottesville because they're going to come up with novel and innovative ideas, and then they're going to stay in the community and drive the economy. So to have the support from local government is not just hopeful, but from my mind, paramount and a must. Show is yours, Mr. Browne.
Well said to start with.
Thank you.
I feel that we have been given the tools that would give us an edge in world commerce and world medicine. And it is up to us to use these tools and to expand the base of small business. When Keith Woodard's building was turned down on the outside of Water Street, it was estimated that, I believe this is correct, every year the city did not allow that to be built, cost $850,000 worth of sales taxes and taxes in general.
And the building he's referencing was going to be the home of the future farmers market.
Yes.
Mr. Woodard walked away from over $1 million of underground infrastructure because he got so frustrated and fed up with dealing with the red tape from City Hall and Charlottesville bureaucracy.
Yes, yes, and yes. And it's a shame.
It is a shame. It is a shame.
That extra tax money would be something that is going to take years if it ever is ever caught up again.
And even from a more micro standpoint that's very localized, humanized, and personalized, the farmers market as we know it today is on an asphalt blacktop in the dead heat of summer.
Right.
Where Mr. Woodard's design had a fantastic home, an epicenter for the farmers market, where the quality of life would have been way better for us that patronize the farmers market.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was a travesty. And I think that that's the one thing that's been very constant in my mind, because I was involved in a little bit, just a little bit in bringing the two together, the developer and the architect together. But it didn't work out, so we have to go on and find something that will work. Why don't we put a chocolate factory there?
Chocolate factory?
Chocolate factory.
Wow, that would be great. Like Willy Wonka's?
Exactly.
Mr. Browne, you are fantastic people. All right, we'll do some rapid fire questions for you. Do you have a little bit more time?
Sure.
Okay, so this is a question that just came in. I gotta know, did Mr. Browne meet George DeParis at Old Ebbitt Grill when he was doing work on the Treasury Department in D.C.?
Might have.
Might have.
Used to go over there all the time. It was a hangout for everybody down there.
This one is from Spencer. Mr. Browne, what's your favorite restaurant to go to on the downtown mall and why?
Keeps changing. And they keep changing because they keep having more and more competition between the stoves, the ranges, and the ovens that produce the food. My favorite? All of them.
He handled that one very well, didn't he, Bill? He handled that very well. This one, Mr. Browne, what do you think of the Omni Hotel and its design?
The Omni Hotel and its design. Oh, boy. I think it's one of the nicest spaces in Charlottesville.
Wow.
I think that the huge room, which became Portman's statement in Atlanta, which was one of the first ones to have that atrium. And I think that the sad part of it is they don't use it enough. I can't imagine a beautiful thing like a jazz 3-piece or 4-piece jazz ensemble being down there. So maybe piano music at night. But I was told by one of the managers that people were complaining that the music was bothering them, because they could hear it from the atrium into their rooms. So I like the Omni.
I love the Omni as well. Mr. Browne, so this is coming in from multiple people. Nathan Miller is asking this. He's a professor at James Madison University. He said, saving what's left of the historical structures in Charlottesville is vital to telling the history of Charlottesville. And then on a different Facebook page, Matthew has said, ask Mr. Browne about the historical structures and his take on the removal of the structures.
The removal of the structures is sad. I would hope that the city council, when they approach giving voting power to a board that would be able to make or break a project, is given much greater sensitivity. I don't think that that board should have anything less than an architect, a planner, landscape architect, mechanical engineer, interior design, and that these visionary people would meet to give the branding of Charlottesville's downtown mall. Right now, we have none of those on, if you imagine, the building committee. Why?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. This one's come in from Kelly. Put in perspective how difficult it is to take a building from planning stage to execution.
Oh, would you like to attend my class on Architecture 1? It's very difficult. But, you know, you have a lot of different people that bring their talents. You have the contractor, you have the engineers, you have the land planners, and all the people that I mentioned previously have to have a part in this. And they all require a part. And so where we go from here is to make sure we can get the best volunteer, the best people that are willing to serve, and spend a long time, hours, arguing. But there's nothing wrong with that discussion, period. It's got to be something that is put out so that every one of us can have something to say about it. It has to be put out in a way that people understand why they have certain elements like rooftop ventilators and rooftop air conditioning units. Why do we have those? So that they make a more intelligent response to the request to have a fill permit.
This is a follow-up question on that topic from Nathan Tallman. Does the Planning Commission and boards of supervisors and city council have too much power or influence when it comes to development and design and projects?
No, they don't have enough. And those people who reuse this should be given guidelines and told what's expected of them, because a poor building in a good spot is far more dangerous than a poor building in a poor spot. So we have to understand that there's good, bad, and indifferent. And we can't be indifferent to our environment.
Mr. Browne, you're amazing. You're very inspiring, poignant. Your perspective is approachable yet knowledgeable. Just find you to be a fascinating interview. I would love to do this again. The show was supposed to go from 12:30 to 1:30. It's now 2:06 p.m., which is a testament to you. I'm grateful to you, Bill, for helping set this up. I'm also grateful to the first guest, Kate Lucas, who joined us on the program, a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, and a realtor. This is what the show is all about. It is about featuring the best of Charlottesville and Central Virginia. It's about having a real conversation that perhaps may make you awkward, but conversation that is founded with the foundation of moving the community forward. Thank you for joining us today on the program. We had 9 states and 3 countries, along with quite a bit of people in Charlottesville and Central Virginia today on the I Love CVille Show. Thank you to you, Mr. Browne. Thank you to Kate Lucas, to Judah Wickower. My name is Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille Show out of the Macklin Building on Market Street. You guys have a good afternoon. Take care. Mr. Browne, you were amazing. Thank you.
A couple of those questions were, I had to be careful